Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice and the Commission on Immigration's program, How Things Work, which is a rapid response project that addresses how our civil rights are being impacted by actions taken by the new administration. My name is Adonia Simpson, and I am Deputy Director overseeing policy and pro bono at the ABA Commission on Immigration. And I am thrilled to welcome you to the conversation today. These videos are a unique opportunity to address what is happening now in today's America, clarify misinformation or disinformation that's being spread, and how civil rights and social justice advocates can act to protect the rights of everybody. So today's topic is really exciting. We're calling it Eyes on Justice, Observing Immigration Courts in Action, and it's more critical now than ever. In the headlines, we are seeing news about detentions occurring in the immigration courts, increased backlogs, exorbitant fees, and implementations of policies which restrict immigrants' ability to seek relief. And it's really essential in this moment to examine how these issues intersect with the principles of justice and equity that guide our work of all of our entities and the ABA generally. We are honored today to have one of my colleagues, Stephanie Baez, who is the Director of Pro Bono at the ABA Commission on Immigration. Her expertise and dedication to harnessing pro bono to respond to the evolving issues in the immigration space has made her a leader in the field. And we are grateful for her willingness to share the information about the reality of what's happening in our immigration courts and what the court observation project that you're going to learn about more later is, and how you can plug in and into these efforts and support the work. Without further ado, welcome, Stephanie. Are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready. Thank you, Adonia.
All right. So, why don't you briefly tell us more about the immigrations court system? For a lot of people, it's not intuitive. Can you explain what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. In a nutshell, immigration court is for non-citizens who are facing removal or deportation from the United States. And that's where they can go to argue why they're eligible to stay in the United States pursuant to some form of immigration relief, like asylum or withholding of removal or other protections that would allow them to stay in the US. An immigration court is a civil court, not a criminal court. But of course, the consequences of the court proceedings are really serious. It could include someone being permanently separated from their family or being sent back to dangerous conditions. During a hearing in immigration court, the government is represented by an attorney from the Office of the Principal Legal Advisor. OPLA is the acronym there. And that's the legal branch of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. And that all falls under the Department of Homeland Security. So that's really the enforcement mechanism, and that's who represents the government in immigration court. And generally, they're arguing for the deportation of the non-citizen. And then on the other side, we have the non-citizens who are called respondents in immigration court. And respondents, they do have a right to hire their own counsel, but it's important to note that there's no guarantee to a free lawyer. There's no government appointed lawyer in immigration court. So even though the consequences of these proceedings are extremely serious, unless someone is lucky enough to be able to hire their own attorney or to find a pro bono attorney, respondents need to represent themselves in immigration court. And that's true even for minor children who are unaccompanied and might be here by themselves. Unless they're able to somehow find an attorney, they'll appear in court alone against a government attorney. They don't have an attorney who's appointed for them. And then one other important thing to note about immigration court that kind of sets it apart from other courts that people might be familiar with is it's part of the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which people call EOIR or EOR, and that's under the umbrella of the Department of Justice. And that's significant because it means that immigration judges, they are not Article 3 judges. So other federal courts have judges that are appointed for life pursuant to Article 3 of the Constitution, and they have lifelong terms. In immigration court, judges are employees of the Department of Justice. They fall within EOIR and then under that branch of government. And that means that the Attorney General is their boss. So immigration judges can be reassigned or removed. They don't have life terms. And it can raise some concerns about the potential for concerns on judicial independence because the judges could be subject to the whims of changing administration and the different policies and pressures that are put on them either directly or indirectly because of the way that these courts are set up. And just one thing that a lot of viewers might have seen recently, there's been some articles in the news that more than 50 immigration judges have been fired by the Trump administration since inauguration on January 20th. So that just shows, the pressure to, follow certain policies, or the pressure of potentially facing removal from your position is very real for immigration court judges.
Thanks for that background. I think that's really helpful. I think a lot of people are seeing the headlines and seeing what's potentially happening in the immigration courts and not really having that background. So it really is helpful to set the stage as we move in and talk about things a little bit more. And I mentioned headlines. Can you talk a little bit about what we've all been seeing in the headlines about immigration and the immigration court system, but maybe break down some of the more recent policies that we've seen and how they're impacting individuals these respondents who are before the immigration courts?
Yeah, absolutely. There has unfortunately been a lot in the news lately. One of the biggest new things that has been happening is a really disturbing trend where respondents who are showing up for their immigration court hearings are having the case be dismissed. The government attorney is saying that they're going to dismiss the charges basically against the non-citizen and have their case be dismissed from immigration court proceedings. Which might sound like a good thing on the surface, but then what's happening is these people are being apprehended, arrested by ICE officials who are waiting in the courthouse to detain people who have had their cases dismissed, and they're putting them directly in immigration detention. And the other, kind of the background to why this is happening, and one of the really serious consequences, in addition to someone being placed in detention, they're taking people away from the protections of the immigration court system and instead placing them in a process called expedited removal, which is basically a way to fast track people in through the deportation process and take away their rights to have their case heard in immigration court before a judge, the ability to present evidence and argue all the reasons why they should be eligible to stay in the United States. Instead, their case is being dismissed from that system, and then they're being detained and placed into this other system, this expedited removal, where again, they're fast tracked to be removed from the country without the protections of immigration court. So it's really disturbing on a lot of levels, and it's been a real affront to due process protections that should be available to people in immigration court. Um, in addition to that trend that's been going on, we've also seen in the news the new policy of pre-termission in immigration court. And basically, that's according to an April 2025 memo from the Trump administration that said that judges have the ability to dismiss or deny asylum applications for asylum that they deem to be not legally sufficient. And that's just based on the initial paper filing that someone might submit. So a non-citizen who doesn't speak English and has no legal background representing themselves fills out a form to initially state their claim for asylum. And before they have a chance to hire an attorney or to gather their evidence or to have their testimony be heard in court, a judge can just based on that form say, it seems like you're not legally sufficient, you haven't brought a legally sufficient claim for asylum, and just dismiss the case right there. So that's another big challenge to due process rights, especially for people who don't have attorneys. Their initial filing might not be so strong. And then once they have the help of an attorney, they're able to add the corroborating evidence, they're able to get the testimony, and their case really is there. They just need the chance to be able to present their case in court, and their applications might be dismissed before they have the chance to do that. And one other trend that's been common in court lately is this issue of fees. Until very recently, it was free to file an application for asylum. And in July of 2025, with the budget reconciliation bill, there was fees that were issued for asylum, where it's now $100 to file the application for asylum, and then also $100 for an annual renewal fee to keep that application pending in immigration court. And it's been a little unclear how someone can actually pay these fees. That process has been confusing even for counsel representing people, let alone for self-represented individuals who are trying to figure out how to pay that fee. The mechanism is pretty confusing and unclear at this point. And people are seeing that their cases, they're not able to file their asylum application because they haven't been able to navigate the fee system yet.
I've been seeing a lot about that, about the fees, and it's not just asylum too. A lot of other applications that maybe did have somewhat of a nominal fee before now have astronomical fees just to try to seek a benefit and be able to fight one's case in before the immigration judge. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned individuals with their cases being dismissed and people being detained. What is it looking like for people that are in detention, that maybe are in that situation? Are they able to get bond right now?
Yeah, so right now, options for bond, which is release from immigration detention, are extremely limited, to the point of being, almost non-existent. Basically, what we're seeing is there's almost 57,000 people who are in ICE detention, as of some numbers that came out in July. And of those people who are in immigration detention, approximately 71% of them have no criminal conviction. And that's according to some data from the Transactional Records Clearinghouse that tracks this immigration data, detention data. And even though people have no criminal conviction and they're placed in detention in these record numbers, it's becoming increasingly more difficult for someone to be able to seek bond, to seek release from detention while their case is proceeding. There has been some recent case law and a recent ICE policy basically saying that non-citizens, many non-citizens are not eligible for a bond hearing and won't be able to move forward with requesting their release from detention pending their case. And that's really difficult for people who are separated from their family. They're frequently being bounced around from different facilities. So even if they're one of the lucky few that has an attorney, it's really hard for their attorney to find them and contact them and help them with their case. And of course, the conditions in immigration detention, there have been some really awful reports that have come out and in a lot of news articles showing that some of the conditions due to overcrowding have really deteriorated in ICE detention as well.
And that's unfortunate to hear. And I know that there's a lot of litigation happening. A lot of these policies that you mentioned, have been challenged or will be challenged. So it'll be interesting to watch it work through the court system. But that doesn't really help a lot of folks that are presently in these circumstances, whether they're in removal proceedings or in detention. Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit more about the actual impact on immigrant communities, these policies for folks that are in removal proceedings? How is this playing out in communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the primary feeling and overwhelming thing is just fear. It's this climate of fear, and it's for people who have been in this country for a long time, people who have followed immigration law, who have filed the right applications, who are showing up for their court dates, and those people are still finding themselves apprehended and placed into immigration detention and placed on this fast track to deportation. And so it really has a chilling effect for people. It makes it terrifying to show up for court, and it's placing people in a really tough situation where they want to be continuing to follow the law, they want to be going in and pursuing their case, but they have this fear that's really genuine and well founded that there might that they might end up being detained because of going into immigration court. So that really is scary for people, and it makes it so that some people just are scared to move forward with their case. They're scared to pursue their rights because of this overwhelming culture of fear of how they might end up detained or apprehended. And so it has been a real just a real chilling effect on immigration, pursuing immigration rights.
And I think it's important to note that if individuals don't go to immigration court, they don't appear at their hearings, they get ordered removed in absentia. So, it's a very, as you mentioned, a very difficult situation that people are in. And something else worth noting in these times where there's this increased fear, unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of people that are taking advantage, and that we were seeing increases in immigration fraud, individuals pretending to be attorneys, saying that they're filing applications that they haven't filed. And so to compound the concerns about fear, now there's this other element that's really increased, which is unfortunately people taking advantage of this fear and the community of people that are looking for help. Um, so I mentioned briefly at the intro that the ABA Commission on Immigration has this court observation and awareness project. Stephanie, what is this? Tell us all about it.
Yes, well, I'm so glad you asked because this is a project that we're really proud of and excited about with the ABA Commission on Immigration. It's a project where we train volunteers to go into court across the country and to collect data. Our project is about training people to be neutral observers in immigration court, to track data about different things that are going on in master calendar hearings and bond hearings. Master calendar hearings are these short status hearings that happen at the outset of an immigration case. And bond hearings, as we discussed, are the hearings for someone who is asking to be released from immigration detention. And we've created an online training course that is a really detailed overview of what happens in immigration court. We've got short videos and written resources to explain immigration court proceedings, master calendar hearings, bond hearings, and teach people how to fill out a observation form that we've prepared that they would bring into court with them to track some data. And then they report that back to us in an online system so that we're able to keep an eye on what's going on nationwide in immigration courts across the country.
And this is really exciting. So I'm guessing a lot of the data and information that you're tracking is probably around those policies that you mentioned earlier that we're seeing play out. That's great. Um, so so you're getting all this data, you're tracking kind of how these policies are playing out in the immigration courts. What is the Commission on Immigration's goal with this data? What are your plans? What do we want to do with it?
Yeah, so we're going to use this data to really support our policy and advocacy efforts on a larger scale. I think in the most immediate, the information that's coming in, we're keeping an eye on so we can let people know, practitioners in certain jurisdictions, if we're seeing things that are happening that they should be aware of and trends that are happening in their jurisdictions. Because this is a nationwide project, we're really able to gather information in all the different courts, and we can report back to practitioners in those areas on what we're seeing. We can also report back on things like if someone is having successful bond arguments and we're seeing things that are working, we can report out on that as well so people can kind of know in real time like what it is that we're seeing that might be helpful. And then in the longer term, we're using this data to support policy and advocacy efforts to sometimes there are things that we know are happening and we've got the anecdotes to back it up, but we really need that empirical data to be able to show these are the trends, this is what's going on in immigration court, and it can help us to support arguments either for things that we already know are happening and we just need that data, or we might uncover things that we didn't know were happening. And when the data comes together, we'll be able to see these bigger picture trends and be able to use that to inform future advocacy efforts.
That's fantastic. And I think that will be a great, as a practitioner, I can say that having access to resources like that, being able to see a little bit more detail about the judges I might appear before is a huge resource. And like you said, kind of the longer term advocacy information that's being gathered is really, really critical in this moment. And I'm guessing all of our viewers who are tuning in are probably great. This sounds, that we've identified this huge issue that really needs eyes on it. You've explained to us what the project is and how what people are doing. Tell us more how people can get involved. Do they need to be attorneys? What can our viewers do to help out with this effort?
Yeah, this project is open and available to anyone. They don't need to be attorneys. They don't need to have background in the legal area or in immigration. People can watch our course and they'll be trained and have everything that they need to know about how to find a docket to observe in court near them. When you're watching this recording, you'll see that there's a heading called resources, and the link to how to sign up is there. It's also found on the Commission on Immigration website. And this is a really wonderful opportunity for people who want to get involved, but maybe you haven't known how you can help because you don't have a legal background or an immigration background. This is a great project. It's a real way to make a huge impact and to track this data and also to learn firsthand and see for yourself what's going on in immigration court.
Thank you. And I do want to stress if there's any law professors tuning in, this is a great opportunity for your students. I think the commission is always welcome and welcomes the opportunity to engage directly with you all about setting up these sort of projects, as well as if you're a legal service provider. So you talked to us about the court observation project. I know there's a lot of different things happening at the Commission on Immigration right now. Are there other ways that people can get involved in this moment?
Absolutely. The Commission on Immigration has a number of pro bono projects that are available, and you can find them on our website. There's also going to be a link to that in the resources section, so you can learn about our different pro bono efforts. And of course, also in something that is always a big help is donations. If anyone has even just a little to give, it goes a really long way, especially in these challenging times. And so that information is available as well. So whether you're able to donate a monetary donation or donate your time, it really goes a long way to supporting the work of the Commission on Immigration, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Stephanie. This was a lot of fantastic information, and I hope all of you watching at home or at work engage with us. We really want to see you involved, whether it's this project or another project. Stephanie, I want to personally thank you for shedding light on what's happening in the immigration courts, how it's impacting immigrant communities, and how all of the viewers today can get involved. To everyone that joined us, thank you for being a part of this important dialogue. The issues that we explored are complex, challenging, and I can attest they seem to change every day. But coming together in spaces like this, we are really taking meaningful steps towards progress. So remember, the work doesn't stop here. Please get involved. Please donate. Please volunteer. The actions that you all take today in our communities, in our workplaces, and within the ABA truly does make a difference. I encourage you all to stay engaged with the ABA's Commission on Immigration and Civil Rights and Social Justice section. Visit our websites, explore upcoming events, and consider joining one of CRSJ's committees to help shape the work that they're doing. Along with this video, as mentioned by Stephanie, there's going to be links posted below on additional information on how to get involved with the Commission on Immigration on this project and many, many more. So please consider supporting all the work we do. And again, thank you for watching. Keep fighting. Together we can, and we do, and we will make a difference. Thank you.